Hello everyone, welcome to my presentation on China's AIDS and HIV awareness presentation. Before I start, I would first like to explain what HIV and AIDS is. HIV stands for Human Immunodeficiency Virus. It's like the other typical viruses like the things that causes flu. Your body immune system can clear most of the viruses out of your body, but HIV is a different story. Once you have HIV, you will always have it for your whole life. AIDS. AIDS stands for Acquired Immunodeficiency Syndrome. It's basically the final stage of HIV infection. Not everyone who has HIV gets AIDS, but if they do, it's because their immune system is damaged. The most common methods of HIV transmission in China is injecting drugs with the same needle, which means when the blood transfers through the sharing of drugs taking equipment, particularly the unsterilized needles, it carries a high risk of HIV transmission. Number 2. Unprotected sex. HIV is passed from one person to another when it spreads from the inside of an infected person's body to the inside of another person's body. Having unprotected sex with an infected person is one way the virus spreads, because during sex, infected fluids such as the semen are passed on one to another, even if it's a tiny amount. Number 3. Last but not least, former plasma donors transmit HIV, which is sort of the same reason to the injecting drug scenario, because you can get HIV by using the same needle which isn't sterilized. In China, not everyone can afford a new needle, so they take the risk of using the same needles. Time for some scary facts. Millions and millions of people live in China, and a million of them are infected by HIV. The million of people infected in China live in 6 out of the 33 provinces in China, which are Henan, Guangxi, Yunnan, Sichuan, Guangdong, and Xidang. So the question is, what is the percentage of the people who have AIDS or infected by HIV in China? I'll give you 30 seconds to write down your answer, so pause the video. Welcome back to the presentation, and what did you get? That's right. 70 to 80% of China's population is infected by AIDS and HIV. That's incredibly insane. I bet none of you guessed that. Here, it shows that 1 in 5 of the people get infected by HIV transmission in China. That means a 20% chance. Just imagine we went to a school in rural China and we had everyone here in your classroom. Calculate the total amount of people that would get HIV in your classroom. What did you guys get? Here, I'll tell you a true heartbreaking story. Sichuan, a province in China where a lot of HIV and AIDS cases come from, are home to the Yi people. There's one particular story that stood out to me, and I will be talking about it. There's a grandma named Zi who's 74 years old and belongs to the Yi people, who has 4 sons. 2 of them died from AIDS from working in an urban area and decided to take drugs, which messed their life up because of AIDS. And the other 2 is currently fighting with AIDS, and she lives in the rural area with her granddaughter in Sichuan. Zia's biggest fear is for her little granddaughter named Nui Nui over here, who's only 13 years old. Her mother abandoned her and her father passed away from AIDS, leaving Zi'er the only one to look after her, which isn't a long time. Nui Nui has been staying home for most of her life due to the fact that her school rejected her for having AIDS and being sick most of the time. Her and Zira wants to go to the hospital, but they can't afford it. Even though the government reduced the cost to 95% for them, they still have to pay tax, which is a major problem. Zier has a daughter-in-law named La Nui, who lives in the same village and is infected by AIDS from her husband, who has abandoned her. The chances of her finding a new husband is very rare and nearly impossible. And she has to work extremely hard to support herself And with AIDS, it's even more harder, as she gets tired easily and doesn't have the appetite to eat. Nui Nui doesn't really know what AIDS is, but she knows that she will die from past experiences. Children in her village bully her because they know that she doesn't have a parent. Here we can solve, these are some ways we can solve the situations. The government can lower tax for the poor people, provide insurance for the poor, and create advertisements to help prevention of AIDS. Lower tax for the poor because even if you lower the price of cost for hospitals, the outcome will still be the same because the tax takes all their money, which means they won't benefit with anything. 2. Provide insurance for the poor infected with HIV or AIDS because if people like Zier dies, what is her granddaughter going to do with no family and money? 3. Create ads showing the outcome when you don't have unprotected sex or doing drugs, especially for teenage. And NGOs, they can create a charity event, protest, volunteer with a group of people to work there. 1. Create a charity event with a group of friends like grassroots soccer, where a lot of people would participate and donate a lot of money. Protest the government to why they are putting high taxes to the poor, for example, Zier and Nui Nuis. And 3. A group of volunteers can work there during a gap year, after retirement, or for service, like the Yawit DW trips. There are volunteers from different countries who just go there for service and don't ask for money. The things you and I can do: donate money or blood, maybe start a service trip. If you're old enough, maybe adopt one of the kids who are suffering with AIDS. 1. We can donate money, even if it's a little, because a little for us is a lot for them, and it could be beneficial for their life. Blood, if you're healthy and willing to give it for free. And maybe when you're going on a vacation with your family or friends, you can maybe help out people with AIDS, like Zira's or Nunu's family. And maybe when you're old enough, consider adopting a child with AIDS because you can make their life so much better, even if it's for a short period of time. Here's my bibliography, and as I was talking about the story, I'll show you a video of Nunui and Zira's life.
Jeans, the best pants for the job of being Canadian. They've been your armor, uniform, even pajamas. What haven't you done in them? You made the ultimate catch. Actually, this is the ultimate catch. No, wait, this is. What can go from Saturday nights to Sunday breakfasts? Jeans. And probably you. They're tough, comfortable, and they clean up good. Through it all, there's one constant. You and a pair of jeans. Get them at Mark's. Everything in jeans.
Sorry about that advertisement.
If you've yet to experience the new Delta hotels and resorts, expect something elevated and something personal, something new, and something inspiring. Expect the unexpected. Expect even more.
Sorry about that also.
Data is hard to come by in the world's most populated country. In China, the UN estimates that 780,000 people are living with HIV, more than half of them unaware that they are infected. That's particularly troubling in some of the country's most remote regions, where families have been torn apart by a disease they know little about. The CBC's Andrew Lee has that story.
In a small village in the foothills of the Himalayas, Nu sits beside her grandmother.
Since we were little, it's my grandma who has taken care of us and raised us.
Her father died from AIDS. Her mother then abandoned her.
Because my classmates know I don't have parents anymore, they often beat me and bully me.
Zi is her grandmother and has seen her family slowly fade away. My two oldest sons died of AIDS, and my two youngest have AIDS. Her granddaughter, Nu, is now the focus of her love. My granddaughter is my greatest concern. When I think of her, I want to cry. What I'm worried about most is after I die, no one will take care of her. These isolated villages are some of the poorest in China. Nu's father had sought his fortune elsewhere. People often come to the big cities in search of a better life. Unfortunately, all too often, they find drugs. Injection drugs are very popular here. They take those problems back home with them. Nu may not remember the faces of her parents, but they left her something she can't forget, can't escape. She too has AIDS.
I have this disease, and I am so sad.
I worry my granddaughter is always sick and needs to go to the hospital, and that costs a lot of money, and I don't have it. The government pays for 95% of the treatment, but even paying the remainder is tough. Zr and the wife of another son scrape a living out of a tiny farm. The woman is also infected with AIDS. Chores exhaust her. Her husband, still addicted to drugs, has fled. Zr says she is tired. I'm 74 years old. I feel I could not live much longer. Nu dreams of joining other children at boarding school if her grandma dies, but
I am sick all the time.
I asked Nu if she knew what AIDS was. She said no. But after a pause, she told me what she did know.
I know that this disease can make people die.
She may not know what AIDS is, but she knows more about this disease than any child should. Andrew Lee, CBC News, Sichuan Province.
Thank you for watching, and I hope you learned a lot from this presentation.